I'm Jason with Saving Sally, and welcome back to a Carticulate episode. We're upping my game a little bit this week. I'm with a good buddy of mine named Ray, and Ray and I are going to talk about a phenomenon that I get joked and teased about a little bit with the third gen F body, which is, of course, if you have one of those, you need to grow yourself a mullet, maybe get a wife beater and whatever other hillbilly stereotype people can dig up from that era. But part of me wants to argue and say, no, the car doesn't deserve that assignment. But the truth is, I think I know that it probably does. And I got a theory about where I think it came from, and I want to float that out and see what Ray thinks about it. You game?
I'm game.
So one of the reasons that I chose to talk with Ray about this is because Ray had a third gen F body, or did you have one, or you wanted one?
I had one.
Had one, yeah. Had one in high school. And did you have a mullet?
Yes, a big mullet. My nickname was Billy Ray, if that tells you anything.
You're being dead serious, right? That's not a joke.
My nickname was Billy Ray.
Perfect.
You'll find that there's something much more there than just a sexy show.
Here's what I'm going to say about that. The fact is, these cars came from an era when a mullet was pretty popular. I mean, the truth is, you look at styles today and you compare that in 30 years from today, and people are probably going to look at us and laugh at what we're doing today, just like we look back and laugh at what was going on 30 years ago. The other side of that coin is that people who bought the third gen F bodies, the nice Camaros and Trans Ams, at the time, that was the car to have. It was mostly people who had a little bit of money, had a couple nickels to rub together, and were doing well for themselves. So they bought these cars, and they might have had a mullet, they might not have. But what I saw happen was, as those cars began to fall out of popularity and fall out of favor, suddenly their resale value just tanked, and the natural environment of the third generation F body went from garages of the middle class to parking lots at AutoZone, because the cars were getting older. The truth is, although they're fairly reliable, mine's an original car. Still, I drove it here today. They did have their issues, and so as they got older, they began to have problems. People who maybe hung on to the mullet a little bit past its expiration date, who couldn't afford a third generation F body at the time, now that car's in their reach, and they bought them. And that's my theory. You have any thoughts on that?
It sounds about right. I mean, it really did. It seemed like that they finally got accessible to people that wasn't loaded, and then it kind of, in my case, I think we give $1,500 for mine when we bought it, and it was. I was glad to have it. I mean, it was nice. It was a 305 automatic, and it was just a Firebird. It wasn't a Trans Am because we couldn't afford the insurance. But love the car and love Sally. I love Sally. Jason's car, Sally, is beautiful, and it was my dream car. But of course, I couldn't afford it. But
so I actually want to. You said 305, and I want to talk about the 305 because I feel like the 305 gets a lot of hate because, yes, there was a bigger engine available, the 350, and in many ways it was more desirable. But in those days, if you had a 350, that was a mandatory automatic. You could not get a manual transmission made it to the 350. My experience, my original car was a 305. It was the tune port, and I think that the sluggish, what am I looking for here?
They just didn't have a lot of torque.
Well, people that believe that the 305 was a weak engine,
yeah,
I think are oftentimes comparing the throttle body car to the tune port car. Because my car was a tune port, and I'm here to tell you, my car would run.
Yeah,
it was a fast. I mean,
now mine was a throttle body, so it was kind of a turd. But my cousin outrun me, and my buddy Jeff outrun me. Everybody outran me. Now it was very dependable, and it got me where I was going. But I definitely wanted the 350 if I could have got it. So
yeah, I'm in the same boat. But I will say this: when I had my car, I could outrun pretty much everybody at my high school, with a couple of exceptions. There was a girl who wouldn't have raced if I tried to give her $1 million. Her parents had bought her a Corvette, a fairly new Corvette. And when I had my car, it was 7 or 8 years old at the time. And then as people began to buy the 4th gen F bodies, so your 93 and ups, they came with the LT1. They were all 350s. And they were significantly faster. They were just geared better, had a more powerful engine. All the way around, those were just faster cars. And so, but up until that point, I had been able to pretty much outrun, Mustangs, even slightly newer, other people's Camaros and Firebirds that were throttle bodies. For the most part, that car was as fast as anything that anybody had out on the road at the time, even though it was a 305. So I'm going to go ahead and say that, from my experience, It all came down to whether or not it was a tune port engine or a throttle body engine in terms of what made your car have high performance.
Yeah, that's right. Because a friend of mine had the multi-port, and then I had the throttle body, and he could smoke me. It wasn't even close. And so, you know, they were definitely faster. And fuel injection and camshaft, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. I want to give a special shout out to my good buddy Ray for letting us use this awesome man cave to film this episode of Saving Sally. I also want to remind you that although I have the backlit sign snuck into this video, the original sign is still up for grabs, and if you don't know how to get it, you're going to have to go back and look at some of my videos to figure out how that's done, because I'm not going to tell you in this video, but it will probably be given away within the next 45 days or so. So, until next time, this is Jason with Saving Sally, and this has been Carticulate. Anything you want to throw in there?
The sign's beautiful. Saving Sally's beautiful. He's almost converting me to Pontiac from Ford. That's all I can say. It's a beautiful car.
Thank you, Ray.